Hey guys, this is Jake from Memory Cards, and I'm here with Julien.
What up, everyone?
We're just taking some time to do a kind of first impressions, I guess, of YS VIII, Lacrimosa of Dana on the
name.
Nintendo Switch. Yeah, it is a name. Fun
what is
fact.
Lacrimosa again? You told me what it means. It's Latin.
Yeah, it's Latin for weeping, and it really kind of fits in with the overall theme of the game.
Yeah, for sure.
So this is just going to be our quick thoughts after playing the game for a little bit, and then we'll have a full review coming up the same day, actually, because there is an embargo on all of this content. But this game did release on PS4 and Vita in Japan in 2016, September of 2016. Then it took a full year to get a translation to English for the Western market, which came out in September of 2017. And it came with a pretty bad translation.
Right, you were telling me about that.
Yeah, so bad, in fact, that the CEO of NIS America had to publicly apologize.
That's so weird. Did they just not have a team that was experienced enough to translate it, or?
You know what? I genuinely have no idea. I don't think they really gave away that information, what caused the translation issue.
That's bizarre, but people were pretty upset about it, right?
Yeah, and then it got a retranslation, which came out in February of this year, so quite a long while, but I mean, it's a humongous game, right?
Yeah.
So when that happened, they also announced that they were going to be giving us the game on the Switch, and, tons of people want that.
Sure.
So this game comes to us from Falcom Games, Nihon Falcom, which is a Japanese developer, and it's published by NIS America. And Falcom are quite widely known for their, lengthy and humongous JRPG games, ranging from the YS games to the Legend of Heroes and all sorts of stuff in between. And fans have really come to love the just great stories that are told in the games.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what, I mean, I've always been into this type of game, always been into this type of, I guess, just, big storytelling. I love games that have great stories, but I also like games that don't. But yeah, so that's what draws me to these types of games. And, I would say I probably have more of a background in playing JRPGs than most people, at least. They're probably my favorite genre ever. So yeah, when I first
played more than me in terms of JRPGs, and I myself like the notion of playing a JRPG, but that category has widened so much in the past 10 years or so that there's the variety of what exists in that category kind of gets hard to differentiate.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
I mean, I'm when I think of a JRPG, I think of something super traditional. I guess I would be a traditionalist.
Yeah.
Like one of the Final Fantasy 3 or something like that.
Yeah. So this one,
great JRPG.
This one kind of sets itself apart because it's more action oriented. It's being called an action RPG.
Right.
But it definitely has JRPG elements. With a lot of these, Japanese tropes and similarities from anime and whatnot.
Have you played the YS games before? Have you played any of them?
No, this is my first time actually ever touching an YS game. I've never really, not that I've not known about them, but it's just, I guess, whenever an YS game has come out, I would play something else, will come out around the same time as this game.
Yeah,
this game.
it's
this
story franchise. I mean, it goes back a few decades.
1987 was the first game.
That's wild.
And this is actually the first fully 3D YS game.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty cool. I've always known YS as I've imagined it in my head as a top-down 2D sprite-based game.
Yeah. Which a lot of people kind of prefer over this newer, I guess,
3D
entry.
model.
Yeah, but honestly, I think I would prefer this over, 2D.
For sure.
stuff.
I mean, I think it's probably as accessible as the series is going to get at this point. Because I myself, as with you, had no experience with any of the Ys games before, besides just like a basic knowledge that they existed.
Yeah.
And this being such a jumping off point for the game in terms of structure and in terms of what the game actually is. We usually, when this happens in a storied franchise, it could either go really wrong or really right, and it seems like they've managed to do something that appeases fans of the series and also is accessible to newcomers, which is a hard thing to do, but it seems like they did that.
Like, it really pulled me into it, and I mean, people will see that in the review, but you know, I picked it up and I was pretty much, you know, boom, right into it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the strongest thing for me in a game like this is the movement and the speed of the game, because I know that in previous JRPGs or RPGs that mimic this or are in this genre or have a similar gameplay style, that speed is something that I need to have fully realized in terms of like how the game flows. Because if you're gonna have this sprawling open world like there is in Ys, and have you transition from area to area and it's filled with enemies completely. I mean, almost all of the time I was playing this game, I was in battle of some sort. There's not many time. There is time for sure that you're not in battle, but it seems like the time I spent playing this game was dominated by being in battle, and then also in between the battles, getting to the next area where there's more battling taking place, and the speed at which your character moves is you move at a pretty good clip, which is good.
Yeah.
And then not only that, my favorite thing about this game is that you have this roll that you can initiate that actually covers some pretty good distance and has a good amount of force and speed to it. And there's no cooldown, which is hilarious because you can just kind of spam this roll.
Yeah, you're just rolling around everywhere.
And then you can combine it with the jump and you do this like jump and then air roll. And I was doing that once I figured that locomotion out. That's all I did. I didn't run anymore.
Yeah, because you get around the map so quick.
It was great.
Yeah, so the game does run at 30 frames per second, much like the Vita version. So I've already seen a lot of people kind of pissed off about that, but I can be honest, it's a locked 30 frames per second.
Yeah.
I've had no drops, even in huge boss battles and stuff. I've had no drops. I did notice a few frame rate stutter when you first load in, like when you first quick transport or quick teleport to a new place. I've noticed a little bit of stutter, but that lasts literally a second. It's not enough to make or break a game. So the game here, like the story is pretty damn lengthy. I've seen people say that they've spent upwards of 100 hours playing this. And then I've also seen people say, well, you could rush through the story in 30 to 50 hours, which is still pretty damn lengthy for a game these days.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And again, like, this is the 8th game in this series, and it does contain the same characters as far as I understand. I think the main character that you play as is a character that's been in all of the Ys games.
Yeah. And it's worth noting that you don't need to have played the previous titles. It's much like a Final Fantasy game, except the main characters, Adol and Doggy, I'm going to call him, I know it's Doggy, they stay the same. But they're just different adventures with those two characters.
Yeah, and I will say that, like, the first hour of this game kind of was a little bit boring to me.
Yeah.
I was struggling to
I remember that.
It,
you were even like, I'm not really enjoying this. And then, this morning I wake up to a text from you saying, okay, this is actually pretty fun.
Yeah. I think that once you get past the first hour and then you're in the island where the bulk of the game takes place, that area, that is when it really starts clicking.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
The combat, everything, and I for me, like, I like any game that you can level up and gain new skills and weapons and armor. I'm all about that. I think that I've been so spoiled by RPGs because there's so many good ones, and I also nitpick because of how many RPGs I've played. When I notice something doesn't work in the way I envision it, or I think it should work, it can become a grievance that I have. But I think that the system they built out in this game is pretty good, and I'm not sure how similar it is to other Ys games, but if this is a new design for them, then they excelled at it. I think it works really well.
Yeah. Another thing that I'm sure a lot of people, who aren't big JRPG gamers will kind of might scoff at the game and, like push the game away is the graphics. They're definitely not the prettiest graphics out there.
Oh, yeah, and the game's 2 years old, too, and it was on the Vita, so...
Yeah. I would definitely say that it's kind of like a game that's in between the PS2 and PS3. It's definitely not the prettiest. Some of the textures are really old, but the art direction is great, which I touch on in the review. Art direction, to me, is a lot more important than having the prettiest graphics.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you can make up for not having as next-gen graphics as possible with other components. And it is on the Switch, too, and the Switch is certainly capable of performing in high-quality graphics, but I think it works well for the Switch, certainly.
Yeah. It's great to, just pop this game out of the dock and then play, while you're going into a different room or something.
Yeah, yeah. And I will...
With big...
That makes me want to mention, I think maybe one of the core components of the game, and maybe the last thing we should touch on, is the music.
Yeah, I really love the music here.
And it's sort of been a trend for most Ys games, right? Like, I've read...
from what I know, yeah.
I've read a few, reviews and a few kind of dissertations on the Ys series as a whole, and it seems like one thing that people always mention as being a standout is how good the music has been throughout this game, or throughout the series.
And with no experience with the past Ys games, I can definitely say that the music in this is great. Like, I've already had some tunes getting stuck in my head. The music when you're just chilling at the Castaway Village gets stuck in my head.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's definitely seems like something that they distribute evenly as you're playing. The music seems to change in a really consistent and meaningful way as you go from battle to spaces in between, and then the campsite or whatever, cutscenes. The music seems to be an integral part of the story. Yeah.
One more thing that I would actually like to touch on, we didn't really touch on it that much, is the combat.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
And the combat here is really good. I would liken it to a mix between the Tales of series with a little bit of Zelda, but the Zelda is more from the exploration aspect. The combat is, very fluid. I wouldn't say it's combo based.
No, I don't
but it
think
definitely
I was pulling
has
off
some
combos.
No, but there's definitely, there's nothing that comes up on the screen saying great combo like a Devil May Cry game or anything, but you can definitely... I've seen some clips actually online of people just tossing enemies into the air and they're never coming down.
Right, yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
One of the hook of the combat is that the different characters in your party are strong against certain enemies.
Yeah.
So you'll need to switch between them to accurately take down enemies. Like if you're going up against an enemy and you're attacking and it's doing like 1 or 2 damage, you know that you don't have the right party member attacking that enemy, so you just switch on the fly. It's super easy, and then go ahead and start bashing that enemy with the new character.
For sure. And another thing, like, there's little mechanics in here called like flash dodge and flash I think it's flash shield or something, which are just kind of similar to like in Bayonetta or something, where you can dodge and get like witch time or something. You'll speed up and the enemy will slow down, just allowing you to do a few more attacks. So the overall combat, especially in boss fights, I love. Like, I don't know, there may be like a boss mode in other games. I don't think there is one in this game, but like it would be really fun just to be put up against a bunch of bosses one after another to see how well you can do.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, those are our first impressions of Ys VIII, Lacrimosa of Dana, and This game comes out on... I don't remember.
I think it's like the 26th or something.
So yeah, definitely check out our review. We'll have an hour of gameplay footage. And yeah, thanks for sticking around. Peace.
Peace.